Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. Still, I'm Dane Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. Joined, as always, on Tuesday and Thursdays by our information banks that are Garrick, Hodge, and Mark Porter. Gentlemen, we're going to discuss a little bit of Cruton today. It's not the hottest topic given other stuff that's going on around the college football landscape. Boy, it's nice to have Ryan Day as your head coach, isn't it? You want to sit back and take a few minutes just to appreciate that. We encourage that. There are other programs very close to your heart or not at all that are dealing with much different issues. We are going to talk about guys that they're going after in 27 and how maybe the current coaching tomfoolery and hijinks could have affected that. I'm going to start with Garrick here today. Garrick, Ohio State is after an elite class of 2027 football player. This gentleman is from the state of North Carolina. Anna Adams, who covers that area for 24/7 Sports, has been all over this. Like I tell you guys, one of the things we bring here is boots on the ground. Our Legend Bay coverage came from Texas and Mike Roach. We've got guys everywhere. So that's a little bit of something you get with your elite premium subscription here is content from all over the Natural 50. But this gentleman is from the Raleigh area. He is a linebacker. He has tremendous hair. And his two schools that appear to be the favorites, according to Anna Adams, are Georgia and Ohio State. If you are not from Georgia or Ohio, and your final two are Georgia and Ohio State in the last 10 years, you're pretty much a bad you-know-what. As we sit and talk about the team that you fear the most, if you're injected with sodium pentothal, the answer should be Georgia. So this will end up being a battle that will at least have some small or even maybe a big effect on the future of this rivalry. So, name, strengths, future of his commitment. Floor is yours, Garrett.
Sure. Well, Quinton Cipher is a 6'2", 220-pound linebacker out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Is the 150th ranked prospect in the 247 Sports individual rankings. He is a top 10 linebacker, ranked number 9 if you want to be specific. And this is a guy that James Laurinaitis was really high on from the start. Got offered in August of 2024, so really early in his high school career. This is a 3-year varsity contributor already. If you look at his statistics across the last 3 seasons, he's averaging something like 150 tackles a season, guys. Had like 12 and a half sacks last year, too. I think got up to like 6.5 sacks this year. So just a disruptor all the way around. Also plays tight end for his high school and is a receiving threat there. Obviously, that won't translate to the collegiate level. They're more interested in his capabilities on the defensive side of the ball. But this is a guy that's lined up in the middle, a prolific run-stopping linebacker, also holds open coverage very well, has blocked several punts. The thing that excites me with whoever's going to get him right away is that he's going to be a major special teams contributor because half of his highlights seemingly come from special teams and how he just creates chaos all over the field. I know it's not always fun to get excited about the potential about a special teams contributor year one, but I personally would be excited to see what he could do there. But this guy just reads and reacts really well. He sheds blocks effectively. Again, if Dan said it best, if your top 2 contenders are Georgia and Ohio State, and you're not from either of those 2 states, I mean, what else can you say about the guy except 2 of arguably the best programs in the entire country are really after him? And this has been a battle that's really gone on back and forth across the last month or so. Quentin visited Ohio State November 1st for the Penn State game. And by all accounts, he and I caught up for a little bit after the game, and he enjoyed his experience. He said everything you'd expect him to say about Ohio State. He's impressed by the culture. He loves potentially developing under James Laurinaitis. So again, we're burying the lead. I do expect that Quinton Cypher will make his decision sometime this week. Right now, if I had to guess, I would say that things are trending toward Ohio State very favorably here. I don't know if I would have said that 4 days ago. So there's been some positive momentum kind of shifting back. We'll just have to see. I do know that he did previously tell Anna Adams that he's looking at a commitment timeline sometime between December 15th, which was yesterday, and the 20th. So again, I'm expecting a decision sometime this week. Whenever that happens, whatever way it goes, we'll be all over it on Bucknuts. But honestly, I'm feeling pretty good about where Ohio State stands with Mr. Cypher. And this is a linebacker that James Laurinaitis really circled in on right away, and it would be a hell of a first commit for Ohio State if it goes that way.
Mark, I don't think there's any argument now that Ohio State, LSU might argue, Ohio State is wide receiver U. If you look at the coming draft in the NFL, I think Carnell Tate's going to end up being the first receiver picked, and he's the second best receiver at Ohio State, and we'll have the first receiver picked the next year. We're also going to have we're going to have the first safety picked. We may have the first defensive tackle picked, and Caden McDonald, that's trending that way. However, I'm building towards something here. We may have the first 2 off-ball linebackers picked. Arvell Reese, those of you that watch this show, we've been talking about him since he was an 8th grader in Euclid or Glenville. I can't remember. He started out at Euclid and matriculated over to Team Ginn. But Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese are going to be picked. I've seen projections now where Ohio State has 5 picks in the top 15. I've seen 8 guys, different names, posted in the first round. So there's that. So I think Quinton Cipher probably knows he's going to a place that can produce elite NFL talent. When you look at this tape, are we getting someone that can fill those types of shoes talent-wise, Mark?
Yeah, he's not cut from the Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles, skill set with 6'5" frame, but he is cut from a lot of other linebackers that we have had. I think Tommy Eichenberg is a guy we can compare him to. He's your between the tackles guy, and that's the first thing I kind of put on his tape is watch him come downhill, watch him strike ball carriers. I mean, he's low pad level, getting people and striking them in the sweet spot. He understands where that is. Stop you in your tracks type of guy. But why we're talking him, there's a lot of downhill guys, but watch how he gets out in space here and he cleans up the piles.
Whoa. Was that him?
That's him. And there's like 3 or 4 plays in a row here where you're going to see him one-on-one with athletes in space, and his feet are nimble. As I watched him more and more, you could see the subtleties in those feet and the way they're moving, but the triggering ability, the getting downhill. Like Eli Lee and some of these other guys, they're built for between the tackles, but they're also pretty good in space. And I don't know how much Dan's going to let us watch of this.
Mark, he's noticeably quicker, though, than those guys to me off the jump. He triggers at least quicker.
Yeah, so there's your, kind of dual threat linebacker where, between the tackles, built for that. But, boy, when you got out in space, there was just like Arvell when he got out in space this year and he kind of tracked down a few, especially at Michigan. He had Jordan Marshall sized up, one-on-one in space, and some other guys, some quarterbacks have tested him in space, and that's why we've seen Arvell's, stock skyrocket. Same thing with this type of player. If you can trigger in space and not get over your toes or over your skis or get juked out, that's when you start to become special because, boy, tackling some of these athletes out in the flats is becoming what this game is, getting these – and it's not just the running backs. It's the jet sweeps. I mean, the screens out there, the bubbles, the tunnels, the funnels, all that stuff. He's a guy that can get out there and be a helper.
Garrick, they're off to obviously a great start in 2027. I was watching some tape of Jamier Brown the other day. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Good Lord. I'm going to tell you something. You want to talk about something to look forward to as a Buckeye fan? I don't even know what to say about Jamier Brown. They showed him in one-on-ones. This is obviously Jamier Brown, wide receiver at Huber Heights Wayne. He's the one who rightfully got them to pay him for his senior year NIL-wise because he almost, we talk about, this guy's a pro playing college ball. This is a college player playing high school football. I don't know how you would ever attempt to cover this guy one-on-one. I would really encourage you to go to watch that stuff. Who were some of the names that you're hearing, 27 that are like you on defense and even maybe tease some of the offense that you've done, the kind of the top names we really need to know now? Like Jamier is a great one because he's already committed. Who are some guys you think that will cause me to act silly like that aren't committed?
Can I comment on Jamier real quick?
Time out, Garrick. Proper Garrick. That's my fault. We need proper Jamier hype and Jamier praise here because here's one. I want to say one more thing about Jamier that made me love him even more. He won the state final in the 100, and he didn't win leading up to it. Meaning he knew the whole time he was the fastest guy. If anyone's ever been a sprinter, the guy you don't want to go against is the guy he literally will run right in front of you and wait for you and let you maybe beat him in the semis, whatever. And then in the final, crown. So he's a special kid. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, and as it seemed like you were struggling for a compliment when you were talking about him. And it's like we give so many compliments to so many players. There had to be a new way to compliment this kid. And
that's what I was trying to go for. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, is there a new way to describe him besides fast, besides explosive, besides college ready? I'm telling you, when he runs, those little black beads in the turf come up out of the ground different. It's like they're torn from their surface, and he's quiet. Like the feet, you don't hear as much.
Yep.
There's just something different, and there always has been. And it's not just because he's coming to Ohio State. The first time I ever saw that kid, and I fluked into seeing him as a freshman. I went to a game, and their starting receiver got nuked in the first quarter, and they put him back to return kicks, and he took it to the house. A little bit later, he was doing bubble screens and all of a sudden a part of the offense, and he was number 37. Like the jersey you throw to some kid on the freshman team that's like, hey, dude, just take this and, whatever. A couple of years from now, we'll give you a number that means something. I mean, yeah, he can absolutely fly. And that 10.31 that he ran, I think his fastest time came leading up to state. There was like a lower time than what he actually ran in the finals or whatever. That was Brandon Sane-esque or lower than Brandon Sane back in the day. And there were some times that of really players that were like 150 pounds or 160 pounds that run like that, but not at his 190-pound frame. So, yeah, and I talked to a college coach, and we were talking receivers at our recruiting night, and he was bringing up stories about Jamier Brown. When we were at his May showcase freshman year, he made the players on his team look so bad that they had to pull him out of drills because they were trying to get the defensive backs there recruited. Okay. And they wanted the defensive backs to look good. And every time Jamier went, they didn't look so good. And it was like, okay, Jamier, you're done. Let him go. These guys go against our JV receivers so they can make some plays on some balls. But he's so good, he makes his own team look bad. There's a unique compliment. Like, there's just got to be different ways to stress to people that we think he's going to be the next in line of these Ohio State receivers, whether it's Chris Henry, Jamier Brown, that have this talent coming out of high school that's like, whew. I mean, yeah, like, boy. I mean, those are two different guys, but it seems like there's one a year that just kind of is the next guy. And then
the mold breaker.
Yeah, and then there's 1B and 1C. I'm not going to call them 2, 3, and 4s. But, yeah, these guys are really coming out of the gates with unique and unusual talent at the high school level.
So the question is he Chris Nelms fast? So I went to the University of Dayton, and Chris Nelms was a sprinter at the time, and he was, I think, the fastest high school kid in the country. I believe Dayton Dunbar. I don't know that for a fact. But Ricky Harris, believe it or not, was a guy at Centerville back in the day who was that fast. It might have been a hurdler, but yeah, Chris Nelms was nationally fast. There's one thing to talk about, one last leave you with on Brown. Not skinny. We're not talking about like, no offense, Zachariah Branch or something, some little 5'9" scat back. I think it's realistic. He is actually probably pressing 6 foot. He's definitely 6 foot in the program. He's going to play. I could see him eventually, like as a professional football player, he could play at 200 pounds, 195, 200 pounds. He's not a wispy little dude. He's going to be, I mean,
That's what
he is the most
special.
electric return guy I've seen in Ohio since I've been here in the last 20 years. Go ahead, Mark.
That's what makes him a cut above everybody else. Even Legend Bay, who is lightning quick, just totally different player. They may run the same time at one point in the 40 or something, but they're just totally different. The NFL receivers, that weigh about 200 pounds, that's what Jamier Brown is. He's going to go profile right into the NFL as one of these elite number one receivers. The only thing I worry about now is what they're kind of the comments are alluding to is we hope Brian Hartline isn't somehow finding a bag.
He's already got a tattoo.
I mean, that's really – and that's a compliment to Coach Hartline that he has that type of draw. And I guess I'm always the one to say this stuff out loud and really spark the comments here. But, yeah, he comes to Ohio State. We're going to see him go in the first round. And so now just, we know he has the Ohio State tattoo, so it would be some tattoo removal stuff if he goes somewhere else. Doubtful.
Wayne has been very good to Ohio State. That is the one school that I was actually worried about originally was was Notre Dame, because Marcus Freeman attended Huber Heights. Wayne, I don't think there's any issue with our guy coming to Ohio State. He is going to be he's already kind of an Ohio legend given his athletic exploits, and his name's going to be in the history books forever because he's the one that got the official NIL going. There'll be no Danny Clark here. By the way, Danny Clark, that tattoo, and he got the tattoo by choice. I'm not sure his decision on where to attend college was totally by choice. You can read into that however you like. There seems to be other news here, Garrick, which obviously you can't attend to because you're on the line here, but Legend Bay. Speaking of Legend Bay, I jested with Garrick that Legend Bay and Chris Henry and even Sharon Moore could be employed by Bucknuts because, man, have we gotten some burn out of those guys. Gracious. Your thoughts on Legend Bay? There's talk now that he may have already asked for his exit strategy. A lot of people seem to know the deal here, but we always get questions about Legend Bay. I said yesterday, boy, you name your kid Legend, you got some serious guts, and he's come through. For those who don't know about him, maybe talk a little bit about his high school career in terms of where he played. I think he fall under the old, we don't do this as much in recruiting anymore, but he would fall under the old athlete designation, the ATH, which means we just want to get this guy on the roster. We don't care, whatever position he wants. So bring us kind of up to speed, and then maybe some of the nuts and bolts of the commitment going forward, possibly.
Yeah, sure. This is a good time to address the two elephants in the room that basically everyone has asked me about on Bucknuts the past.
Elephant one.
Yes, elephant one is this is the much quicker answer. So we're going to talk about Jamier Brown first because everyone says with Brian Hartline leaving to South Florida, do I think that impacts Jamier Brown? And the truthful answer right now is it's too soon to tell, right? Because hang on. It's too soon to tell because you don't know what the replacement is at wide receiver. So I can't sit here and say with 100% certainty he's going to be an Ohio State Buckeye.
Wide receivers coach, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, we've talked about the Block O tattoo. It is going to take something extravagant to get him to flip. And I also tend to agree with one of our commenters. As long as Ryan Day's here, I mean, if Ryan Day is this much of a magician that he can get Chris Henry to come to Ohio State 72 hours after Brian Hartline departs to South Florida, I think that he can assure Jamier Brown that Ohio State's still going to be a good place for him when he has a whole year to do it. So I'm not overly worried right there. But anyway, still, it would be foolish for me to say 100% in the modern era without Ohio State having a current wide receivers coach right now. So I'm not saying it's 100%. But
you know what? What if kids start getting Brian Hartline tattooed on their arm instead of the school?
Well, then number one, I would.
I'm out. I pull the offer to any kid that does that. That's just me. Go ahead.
That's number funny. One, I would just ask the kid why, just why. And number two, I would ask the parents why, just why. Mark, if your kid comes to you and says, "Hey, Dad, I'm getting a coach's face,"
obviously that was a joke about.
There needs to be discussion about getting another man tattooed on your son. That should be more general before you get to specifics.
I guess I should have prefaced that more of a compliment to his. Like if I'm a receiver, if I'm a receiver, there's one guy I want to play for.
No,
he could be coaching.
We think you were trotting that out there
for the Eskimos, and I'm still going to play for him.
You were trotting that out there to see if child number one needs to get the tattoo and grease his skids to Columbus or Tampa, wherever South Florida is. Is South Florida in Tampa? Where is it?
Orlando.
My bad.
Yeah, right around Disney World. Played in a flag football tournament there a couple of years ago, and it is a nice place. Really.
Yeah.
Those Florida schools have some draw. A lot of the draw is the people walking around campus, but that's another story.
Okay. Elephant number 2, Legend Bay.
Legend Bay. I'm sorry. Elephant number 1. We're back. Go ahead.
Yes. So elephant number 2, Legend Bay. To give a quick refresher, Legend is a 5'11", 175 pound. I'm going to call him a playmaker out of Texas. In the 247 individual ratings, he is the 149th best prospect. He certainly had a nice recruiting bump there over the past couple months. And in high school, he actually plays quarterback, and he is the rare athlete. And I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that designation, like Dan said, because I think athlete is just a clever way to say that we don't know where the hell he's going to play. So we're just going to call him an athlete. But with Legend, it's certainly true because he's a quarterback who has more rushing yards than passing yards. I think he finished with like 1,700 rushing yards this year and 23 rushing touchdowns. And he still threw for like 1,500 yards through the air. But so Legend is described to me as an offensive weapon. Wherever he goes, he's going to be a wide receiver in the slot. He's going to take snaps in the backfield. He's going to return kicks. He's going to return punts. I know the lofty comparison is Curtis Samuel. I would think of it for now as more of an Xavier Johnson, like a guy who did take handoffs in the backfield. I think he's more talented than Xavier Johnson, don't get me wrong. But again, I'm just a guy that tries not to put too much on the kid from day one, as Dan just goes, "Oh, come on, don't give me that."
Well, I mean, Xavier Johnson was a good player, but he's a walk-on. If you
I know that's what I said. I'm just saying more.
Hey, look,
I'm comparing more for the role than I am for the talent himself. But anyway, by the way,
Bill and I had a joke that we don't want to self-anoint anybody, and of course, most of the players coming to Ohio State are anointable, and they're going to be going to great places. But I always felt like that too, where I don't want to see every kid through scarlet gray glasses and tell them how great everybody's going to be, because not all of them will work out. If you bring in 20 or 25 kids, 12 will be stars. The other 12 will be fighting for roles or maybe in and out of the program. It's just the nature of the business, and that's been the way it's gone forever. So I'm always trying to, and people always want to say like, well, Mark, who are the 12, that are going to make it of the other? So that's kind of where I try to lean my chips is Jamier Brown's a no-brainer. Chris Henry's a no-brainer. They're safely in that upper 12, and we kind of do that. But then you kind of get to an echelon where, hey, we took 4 or 5 offensive linemen. Not all of them are going to be starters at the same time, maybe. And, so I'm glad you said that. And that's something the dean and I always would talk about. Even when he did his rankings early, we'd be like, boy, whoever you put in this top 10 list as a sophomore is anointed, and they have a lot to live up to, because when Ohio State fans and these fan bases gravitate towards them, you don't, and that's the other thing, you don't want to see a kid go from the 8th ranked player in Ohio to the 45th ranked player in Ohio 2 years later, where he's kind of, a 5 or MAC kid and not the Power 5 kid he looked like as a sophomore. Sorry for that little.
No, it's good stuff.
There, but if you're following Garrick and I, we're going to do our best not to anoint, I guess. And I'm glad Garrick's on that same page.
Okay. So we've dragged it out enough to answer the elephant in the room question with Legend. Right now, from what I understand, Legend is trying to find a way out of his signed document to Tennessee, whether that be from Tennessee outright releasing him, or whether that be he just enters his name in the transfer portal on January 2nd when he's eligible to do so. Now, There might be some speculation that Tennessee might let him out this week. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I'm on record that I'm not sure if it entirely matters, only because I don't think that he can sign with Ohio State unless, his inner circle has a miraculous turnaround and is ready to file the paperwork with him as we speak. And I don't know that to be true or false, either one. But the fastest that he can sign with Ohio State is when he turns 18, which I believe is around Christmas. So I assume Tennessee is going to give him a release. It's just the public relations thing to do. You don't want to hold on to a player that doesn't want to be there with this much publicity. It just doesn't do anybody any good, especially with how much freedom players have to leave anyway. It's not like
that the Bo Ryan. Go ahead.
Yeah. But it's not like you can force him to be there. But the nuts and bolts of it is that I think right now we're at a position where I would be more shocked if Legend Bay isn't a Buckeye by the end of January than if Legend Bay is at Tennessee. So I expect him to be a Buckeye eventually based on the way things are going. In terms of a timeline, when that's officially going to happen, your guess is as good as mine there. But I can say that the earliest it can probably happen, barring a change of heart, is somewhat time around Christmas time. So it would be a great Christmas present for Ohio State if and when that's able to happen. And we talk about his on-field fit. I think in terms of his first year, the only way I can see him playing on the field is as a kick returner and a punt returner. I think he could win that job from day one. Not saying he will, but he's certainly electric enough, and I don't think that anyone they bring back there is that far ahead of him that he couldn't challenge for that spot outright. But I also don't know if he'll be ready to take a couple handoffs a game or a couple I mean, Brandon Innes is probably coming back as far as we know and still going to be a nice slot receiver. So Legend might have to spend his first year as a gadget-type player and a punt returner and kick returner. But still, he's the kind of electric player that you just get out of your seat for anytime he touches the ball, because that's what speed do.
And, he's also done it at the highest level. It's not like he's running away from guys in a state that's not known for its football. If you're a star in Texas, one of the things I also like about it is you've dealt with a ton of pressure. Go to a Texas. There's probably more people at Texas games than there is at, some small college games. So he's the next White Lightning, Doug Donnelly. I got a Doug Donnelly story one day for the premium kids. It involves Las Vegas and the Spearmint Rhino, so you can Google that. That's factual. I mean, I can tell you what made it really funny is he was there with his nephew, who was wearing a Schmedium T-shirt that said Earl Bruce Football Camp on it. So my friends were like, "Who's that?" Someone came over to me and was like, "There's a white guy over here who I think has an all-century ring on. Who is that?" I look over, I'm like, "It's White Lightning." And then the rest went down.
You gotta give this story now. I mean,
No.
You got an extra few minutes today. Come on.
Premium. That's when we go off and we switch to the premium C-SPAN feed, just tune in for that. That'll be some good stuff. Brian, that's an interesting. We need a home run hitter at punt returner. It is very interesting that Brandon Innes is the punt returner now, and the guys we've talked about on the show are the punt. Legend Bay and Jamier Brown could be return guys. Those Legend Bay and Jamier Brown are not guys you put back there just to catch it and get a few yards and go down. You put them back like when I was growing up. I don't know if you guys ever remember this. The Washington Redskins, if the other team was punting from the end zone, they'd bring Darrell Green in to return the punt because you miss one block and it's off to the races. That's how these guys are. Now, I appreciate Brandon Innes and his ability. And Urban did this a while back. I think there might have been a fumble or two, and he's like, F this. Put someone back there that can catch it, and then we'll get the rest of the stats with the offense. That's one to watch.
Was Jamier Brown back for kickoffs earlier in the year, I thought? Not Jamier Brown, Jeremiah Smith. I thought I saw him return a kick earlier in the year, and it was a short little thing, and I don't want to say it was against Ohio U.
Don't remember. I know that they've obviously we know that they bring Caleb Downs in there at times.
And the reason
don't be surprised in the college football playoff if the other team's punt from the end zone and a certain safety is back there to return it, a la Indiana last year. Very, very.
And he
good
doesn't
stuff.
look like a punt returner body or kick returner body, but to the point you're making, when you need a big play, sometimes it's players, not plays.
Now, this is a digression, and people love this. Do you guys remember a guy named Ahmad Brooks, who played defensive end for San Francisco?
Virginia, I think, out of high school. Yeah.
He was Hilton High School in Virginia. Deion Butler of Penn State was on his team, but that's a digression. They put him as their kick returner. He was the number one player in the country at the time. He was about 6'4", 245 pounds.
Yeah.
Here's how many moves he would make. 0. He would run straight up the field, and it was just like a game of chicken. Who's gonna put their life in danger or give up 6? I've never seen anything like it.
So to digress,
awesome.
Even harder. Maybe the reason I forget names and stutter so much is for 4 years in college, I was the guy who set the wedge.
Oh, good God!
And at Kent
He was an
State,
exchange student for that in high school. He didn't know what the hell was going on.
State, we were 5-49-1. We got beat 77-10 one game, which is like 10 touchdowns. That means I had to set the wedge 10 times, which that sensation which you are describing, the game of chicken, the biggest Neanderthal from every team we played was sent to run down the middle and blow up the wedge. So I saw everybody's version of Ahmad Brooks. And I tell you what, that is an intense game of chicken. At some level, you're running as fast as you can, and you can just feel the bodily damage that's going to be done if you don't get low enough or get a shoulder in instead of a head. There's an art to it, but boy, as you said, that game of chicken, I almost got the chills in my spine of a couple guys that were running at me. And boy, it's hard to admit that you make a business decision, but going 6 or 8 inches lower to save your life is probably this business decision I made a few times.
On my high school team, we had an exchange student, a good-sized kid from Italy who didn't know the rules, and they inserted him as wedge breaker. This dude would literally dive at because they've changed the rules now. You're not allowed to do that. You know what I mean?
You know what?
He would try and dive over the wedge. He would try and dive. He'd only played on kickoff. He didn't know the rules. They were like, see that?
What was really insane is before the rule changed, we would drop back and lock arms with the guys on either side of you. And we would run as a flying wedge, and you were locked in.
They called it a wedge because there was a guy at the top.
Yeah, so I was the guy in the middle for the first couple of years. Then I got to be a guy on the wing of it where I was kind of but yeah, then they made it so you couldn't lock arms. It had to be individual blocks, but that got to be a crazy that was like a concussion zone. That really was.
All right, you want to go down memory lane here, Cam? He and Michael Robinson, he's referring to Michael Robinson, who played option quarterback for Varina High School and lost his final game against Centerville High School. And I remember because I was there. Chris Stanton caught a touchdown pass for Centerville to win that game. And the only reason I remembered is I was going to a wedding in Annapolis later that day for a relative last name Stanton. Digression. Michael Robinson was an option quarterback and was the biggest guy on the field, was a complete stud. I think he went to Penn State.
He was a fullback for the Seahawks for a while, I thought.
Yeah, just a stud. And
fullback
he's actually
good on
TV.
Yeah.
Good on TV. All right, Garrick. People love our digressions. By that, I mean I'm going to get at least 20 comments on here telling me to shut the F up. That's fine. Garrick, any chance Savion Hiter leaves this team up north? So just for those who are playing at home, they've had better days up there. There's one thing to have a scandal, and there's another to have your head coach in the county blues for everyone to see. My guy got a little loose there at the end, not doing well. That's a very bad situation long term for Team Moore. But he obviously helped recruit Savion Hiter. Why anyone would want to join Michigan right now, given the overall program dumpster fire-like qualities it has. And here's another thing. Once you do an investigation on someone, you find stuff you didn't expect to find. You don't want people getting into your text messages.
Or our post-game
chat. Just for your own sake right here. Think what it would be like. Just for your own sake on our own small edge of the world. What would it be like if every text message you've ever written got into the USA Today? Right?
What if our
Like we used to say,
podcast?
oh my!
Stuff at the end of our podcast. There we go.
It's not going to be pretty. Far be it for me to wallow in that and actually sit back and I'm not going to say enjoy it. This one got ugly.
Dan doesn't hit stop on this podcast, and we keep talking. You're going to be treated to the most inside information you've ever heard.
We will stop it before that because I have kids in college.
And there's just a world where we have to discuss things that are on the edge of the precipice of coming available, or information that may or may not be true, and we have to discuss it and vet it. And sometimes that's the most interesting conversation.
Oh,
the vetting of material, which is a normal process, could become something that, if repeated, is bad because sometimes we interject opinions and stuff like that. But
sure,
Dan, as you say that, I'm deleting my phone right now.
Yeah, well, the good thing is everyone does
the microwave.
Everyone does this. Everyone has that thread. You just can't let it get out, which is why, don't cheat on your wife. That's just me. It's an easy way to not have to do that. Garrick, back to you as you witness the digression. Savion Hiter, we talked about him ad nauseum here. Really one of the better backs and was a good win for Michigan on the recruiting trail. Now, why he would want to go there, I don't know. They obviously have fooled their players. Jordan Marshall coming out and saying it's the culture and then seeing what happened. That's just either they've been brainwashed or they haven't been privy to the lack of positive culture. Roundabout way. I don't think they'll go after Savion Hiter. That's my opinion. I actually, if we're talking salary cap, and we are, I don't think I would make that move given where they are. And I've heard, we can talk about that. But your thoughts, Garrick, on how about this? Talk Savion Hiter and take it at running back even further. There's some Kemon spell up questions up there.
Okay. In terms of Savion Hiter, and I'll throw Carter Meadows, the talented defensive end, in there too as well. Right now, since Sharon Moore's firing, I believe there have been 2 Michigan signees that have asked out of their – it's not letter of intent anymore, but whatever their signed documents are called now in the year 2025, and have gone elsewhere, which honestly is a pretty relatively low number for what it could be. I think the vibe I've gotten about the rest of the class is they're kind of in wait-and-see mode, right? I don't think we're going to have anything definitive on Savion Hiter or Carter Meadows until we get some more clarity on who's going to Michigan and then maybe what that staff looks like. Who knows if Tony Alford, Savion's lead recruiter for the past however many years, is going to have a job in a month. So I think everybody's just waiting for some clarity. But I will tell you who's having probably the greatest field day of their lives is Savion Hiter's agent right now. Probably does some back channeling and decides if and when they decide to enter the transfer portal, what would the market potentially look like. So not that any tampering conversations would ever happen in an official capacity whatsoever, because, college football is the cleanest sport on the greatest earth on the planet, right? But that doesn't make any sense. We digress. But yes, that's just a long-winded way of saying that I don't think we're going to get clarity on those 2 guys until Michigan has a coach. They have those initial discussions, and then the agent is probably done doing his back channeling. So that's the most blunt way I can put it at this moment.
So you heard me chuckle there. I'm reading the chat here. And Jeffrey threw a JMac, let's call him, the ESPN investigative reporter locking on the quorum LLC. Okay, so this is what I was kind of trying to discuss earlier. I believe he's talking about Pablo Torre, who has started a show where basically he goes and does the dark, deep dive of journalism that used to be so prevalent. I can't remember if I said it on this show or another one with Steve, but at the Washington Post back in the day, there used to be a guy working there named Mark Asher. And you guys remember when caller ID used to be that little box on your Garrick, you don't remember this?
I remember.
You do?
Yeah. I mean, there was my first phone was like a flip phone.
Okay.
And, it gave you a little screen, and Dad or whoever was calling. So
Right.
I don't know if we're talking about the same thing, but I do
Well, there
remember
used to be
having
these
the
little,
first-
literally when it first came out, there were like a little white box.
Oh, and
It
you had
wouldn't-
to pay $10 a month extra.
yeah, and it
to
was a little
get it.
digital thing on, and it would
Oh,
say,
no. Okay, this was before my time.
Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
we were just talking about flip phones and just them being
This was cutting edge back in the
Oh,
90s.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was
But
before my time.
the name would show up. So if you could say Garrick Hodge, we used to have this running joke that if Mark Asher called you, you don't answer it. You start packing. You get your shit together and you get out of there because you're about to go under. If Pablo Torre's name shows up on your caller ID, do not pass go. Pack your stuff up and realize this life here, you need to go change your name and go America's Most Wanted, some non-extraditing country, because you are toast. The problem with Michigan is, as dirty as it was, once you get into it, you're going to have like anecdotal examples, like we heard about halftime proclivities, possibly allegedly. This is going to get majorly ugly. Again, let's just hope it hurts Michigan recruiting. That's the only thing I get out of it personally. But good Lord, I didn't know that. And that's the problem with getting in trouble like that. Yeah. Pablo investigated the LA Clippers. Now they're running. I mean, seriously, you don't want that. Here's another thing. Here's who's happy to give information to Pablo Torre. Everybody who's not being investigated. Okay. So they're just going to be, that's the rats pushing things away. They're all going to be guilty too, because everybody's guilty on some level. Man, that's going to be ugly. And I'm going to enjoy watching that.
So, I wanted to digress when he brought up like the tampering and, you know, the portal doesn't open until January 2nd or 3rd or whatever. There's an agent that I talked to, or there's a couple actually, and they've warned me not to repeat stuff, but the amount of times that I'm on the phone with them and they get beeped in by college GMs and whatever for their clients. And it's like, tell me again how you're not allowed to talk to these guys until someone's officially in the portal or whatever. The games that are being played right now it's full blown free agency. It's like on day one of NFL free agency when there's 10 contracts signed and ready to go. Be like, who read this contract in 30 seconds and had it signed by 7 a.m. in the morning on the first day? Today's a digression day. This is not the biggest news morning.
Have some lemonade. I don't get it.
Yeah, the Hiter thing, he is that good. And Dan, you said the salary cap. It's so hard that after you've signed your entire class, when someone comes available and they're a big dollar player, or you have to allocate so much money, it's going to hurt you in another area. And this is where we've talked about the cap before and how NFL team structure and how they, as fun as Hiter is and as great like as Jahmyr Gibbs as he could be, paying a running back or paying a couple running backs just isn't a business model that has proven to be successful. And it's almost like the running back has become the cherry on top of your thing. And, you know, say Jahmyr Gibbs becomes available today. How many teams in the NFL actually have the cap room to add him to their roster? And that's kind of what Hiter is. He's coming available possibly. And this day and age, I know we don't have a cap, but how do you go back to donors who have just given you enough to sign probably a record-breaking class? Hey, we need $4 or $5 million more. We need $3 million more. And these players are worth it. They're justified. There is some traction to like, hey, let's bring them in. But I just don't know if in this day and age, if you can just spend crazily, because that money's coming out of your butt somewhere else. I have joked also that whatever condition your facilities are in right now in college football, your weight room, your locker room, that stuff, that's the way it's going to be for a while.
Right. I was going to say,
tapping into these donors, you're not tapping into them for coaches' salaries or locker rooms anymore, or the pretty other stuff. It's all going to the players. So it's not like any of these locker rooms are in, malfeasance and they're bad places. But that was the rage for how many years? Wasn't there a stream going through Alabama's locker room a few years ago just to show off? Just to, that's where we're at. It's how much money we have.
You don't mean a computer stream.
Yeah.
Or
a real stream.
You're not streaming content. You're talking about a stream of water.
Water, yeah.
Whatever that means. All right, a couple things. One, that's a great point, and that I know an individual who made a donation to this was about 18 months ago, to a Big Ten school not named Ohio State, and about 6 months later, for facilities. And about 6 months later, he said that was the worst money I ever spent. If I could go back in time, I would put it completely into salaries. No one cares about that anymore. It used to be like Urban's thing was we don't want to be better than, Michigan or Penn State's facilities. We want the LSU or Alabama facilities. Obviously, you need to have a bare minimum now, but you can go from there. Here's what I think is going to happen at Michigan, and we will finish with Garrick giving the update on Kemon Spell and DGG real quickly. I think they're going to hire the guy who's there now, Biff Poggi, and they're going to take a year to kind of let things settle. This investigation is going to go on for a little bit. They may not do it. Their best thing to do is just take a year. I wouldn't even pay that many people and then restart fresh.
I think that would be a disaster for them. That would be a
Why?
Ohio State Christmas present.
I know that, but the idea that what's the ultimate goal is to be competitive with Ohio State again. How are they going to do that next year?
Well, they got to retain their roster, much of it as they can for a start. I guess if
you're then, hold on a sec, you're then starting paying, you're going to have to pay guys twice what they're worth
to keep them.
Listen, this is why we cover Ohio State, right? This is much easier discussions to figure out between who would you rather play between Texas A&M and Miami rather than how are you going to field a competitive team next year when your athletic department has been scandal-ridden for the past 5 years. But
Matt Campbell saved Penn State from the disaster they were in. That was about as good as they could do to bring in like a culture and a guy who could, take on a place or an underdog. Michigan's in that same boat right now. And like initially I do see your logic, like, hey, let's take a year to reset, maybe save some money and then go double in, next year when we do get a coach that's on the market, because you may not like the coaches available right now. That may be the true answer to that, Dan, is Biff may be just as good as what's out there, and we might get him for a nickel and, we may keep the roster together if we keep some of the coaches that are on staff. You really have to know the pulse of that team to see if that's the right move. But I almost fear like with Garrick, my initial reaction was Garrick's like, oh God, that would be a gift for Ohio State, because then they would lose Hiter or Meadows and God knows who else. And in this day and age, the guy in Indiana just did it from 13 guys.
Keep this in mind.
So
here's the problem with that. Let's say they pay Hiter and Meadows X number more. Carter Meadows, of course, a defensive end from Gonzaga and DC that Ohio State was in it. We talk about Meadows and Hiter, Garrick, I assume, because they're kind of the two guys that Ohio State heavily recruited. So if they came open, it would make sense. They don't have to stay there more than a year. They could go there and get paid. It doesn't work out, and they could boogie. So this is not like you get these guys. You still have to, just paying them is no longer good enough. In the NFL, once you pay the guy and he's on contract, even the Raiders get free agents. The Jets get free agents. You could sign with Michigan and after a year be like, I'm out. I'm going to go to Georgia, Ohio State, etc. So digression majorly. Okay, quickly finish. David Gabriel-Georges and Kemon Spell. I believe the interest here, Garrick, is because those are their two big-time running back focuses in 27. I believe that the top two running backs in the class. And there seems to be Spell, a former Penn State commitment. There are crystal balls rolling towards South Bend for him. So that not only creates that question, but then the impetus on DGG. Please take it away. Mark and I are not going to talk again.
I don't think there's too much of an update in terms of Spell. I think Georgia has really come on in that recruitment a lot. But, he released a top 5 not too long ago, and Ohio State was in it. So Ohio State's still in the thick of things here for Kemon Spell. I think that both of those guys are probably going to end up being a summer decision, probably commit sometime before the start of their senior year, right before official visits. Still nothing has changed on my end. I still believe that David Gabriel-Georges is by far and away Ohio State's number 1 target. Not that Kemon Spell isn't also a high priority target as well. But I think that Ohio State has, let's just say, probably the resources to be very, very competitive, probably between 6 or 7 guys a year to pay very, very competitive top of the market money. And I think their evaluation of David Gabriel-Georges might reflect that. We'll just have to see how crazy the modern recruiting gets, because, Tennessee would love to keep David Gabriel-Georges home, and Georgia's also going to be a factor in that recruitment too. But in terms of an update, your update is that Ohio State is in a small group for both of them right now. They're in the thick of it. They haven't been eliminated. They haven't secured either one. I still like where they sit for Gabriel-Georges, but I think that recruitment's probably going to have a lot of twists and turns over the next couple months. But yeah, I would say overall that they're in a good position with DGG. And if for whatever reason they don't win that recruitment, I think they would make a big push for Kemon Spell. I think that they are hell-bent on getting a premier running back to headline their 2027 class. So who that guy is, we'll have to see. They hope it's David Gabriel-Georges, but if it's not, then where they pivot will be very interesting. We didn't get to my top 7 players' names to know in the 2027 class on the defensive and offensive sides of the ball, but we can do that Thursday.
And if you need to check those names out and get prepped for it, it's on the site now.
That is true. It's on Bucknuts.
Definitely go ahead and do that. Definitely appreciate these guys stopping by. And those of you that are still listening now, you are high quality nutters. If you're listening to the show right now or watching, you're our people, because we have digressed and transversed and gone over it. Mark and I have done whatever we do, but we appreciate you guys stopping by. Let's have a great day. Let's get Quinton Cipher in the mix here shortly. Have a good one.